Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I'm finally coming with my next mock draft. Haven't done one in a while. Wanted to wait till all of the dust settled with free agency. Wanted to make sure we didn't make any more big moves. Who knows? Maybe immediately after I put out this mock draft, we sign somebody like Bobby Wagner. I will look crazy in my video, but ultimately I hope that happens because I really want somebody like a Bobby Wagner or a Tyrann Mathieu. But I doubt it happens, so I feel like it's safe enough to put this mock draft out. Who knows what happens soon after I drop this, but as of right now, based on the needs that we have, already came out with the video a few days ago breaking down exactly what our largest needs for the team were. Not in any order: future franchise quarterback, middle linebacker, rangy free safety, playmaking wide receiver, tight end, guard, power running back, and defensive tackle depth. Granted, we don't have a lot of picks in this draft, which kind of sucks because this is going to be arguably the deepest draft in NFL history, just because a lot of guys who normally would have went into the 2021 draft stayed another year due to the COVID-19 exempt list, and you could play another year. So now this is going to be like the largest pool of players in a single draft in NFL history. There were way less last year, and it's going to be a little less next year. So this is like the draft to have as many picks as possible, and then we don't have a third or fifth round pick. Just terrible timing. I mean, granted, the third round pick went away for getting Carson Wentz, so we'll see how that turns out. But I guess luckily we do have 2 sevenths, but this is the draft to have like several seconds, several thirds. Would have been really nice to have several firsts, and which is why I'm definitely doing a trade back scenario mock draft next, because first of all, that's my option. That's my favorite option. I feel like trading back is the smartest thing to do. Trade back to the Steelers or like the Chiefs, and if we can get another first round pick, like a really late one or a second, couple of thirds, I'm down to do it. Because the Chiefs, I believe, have 2 late firsts now after that Tyreek Hill trade. So if we can get both of those first to trade back to their pick, they can trade up to our pick and get one of those top receivers. Hey man, have at it, in my opinion. I feel like we need to accumulate as much draft capital as possible. And again, remember those compensatory picks that we'll get for letting Brandon Sheriff go, for losing Tim Settle. We'll get those next draft, the 2023 draft. This draft, we have no compensatory picks. To break it down, actually, if you want to know, just in case if you're curious, we have a round 1 pick, 11th overall, round 2, 47th overall, round 4, 113th overall, round 6, 189th, round 7, 231st, and also round 7, 241st overall. So we have 6 picks in the draft. No third rounder, no fifth rounder, 2 sevenths. Again, I don't like these draft picks. Prefer to trade back and get some more picks, but we're going to work with what we have today. There's going to be no trade back. There's going to be no trade up in this scenario. So let's go ahead and get to it, man. And before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you go check out my previous mock drafts. Also go look at my full breakdown of what our current team needs are after free agency, and be on the lookout for more mock drafts and more content, period. Again, from my channel members, y'all are getting exclusive raw and edited film sessions. I'm probably gonna work on one, if not tonight, definitely by tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Again, channel members only. Again, infinite content, anything that goes on in free agency, any updates as far as the team goes. I'm working on a Rico report just to break down everything concerning the Washington Commanders that's gone down since the last time I did one like a week and a half ago. So be on the lookout for that as well. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, first up with the 11th overall pick in the first round, I have us taking wide receiver Jameson Williams. Again, I prefer to trade back if we can, but to me, Jameson Williams is easily the best receiver in this class. I know a lot of guys like the Ohio State guys, a lot of people like Drake London, a lot of guys. I'm intrigued by Christian Watson. I like Treylon Burks a lot as well with his potential and his playmaking ability, but to me, I don't even think it's a debate. I think Jameson Williams is the best receiver in this class, even with the torn ACL. But it's already been reported they're expecting him to be back before preseason. He'll probably even be back before training camp, and even then I'm not really worried. because he's just, first of all, the receiver position, you would love to have them there during training camp and all of that type of stuff, but it's not like he's playing the quarterback position or the cornerback position where like training camp is a must. They miss training camp, it's like they might as well not even go out on the field, especially as rookies. So I feel like he'll be fine, even if he has to miss off-season workouts. And with current technology, modern technology, man, people come back from torn ACLs even better than they were before they had it. With stem cell research, physical therapy, they end up coming back quicker, more explosive than they were before they had the ACL injury. It's crazy. And even if he doesn't, man, even if for some reason he's only 95% of what he was, I'll still take 95% Jameson Williams over 100% these other guys. I mean, he's just that crazy of a playmaker, a freak athlete. He's 6'2", and even though he didn't run an official 40 time at the combine or his pro day, because he recently suffered that torn ACL against my Georgia Bulldogs in the national championship just a couple of months ago, but back when he did run a 40 time during his college days, he ran a 4.39. So 6'2", 190 pounds, running a 4.39, that's unbelievable in itself. He's basically a 6'2" Deshaun Jackson. Remember, Deshaun Jackson is 5'10". I guess the closest comparison is maybe a stronger Devonta Smith, which is just crazy because Devonta Smith showed last year that he has crazy playmaking ability. I think Jameson Williams has an even higher ceiling, and he has more play strength. He can break tackles better than he can. He can beat press coverage better than Devonta Smith can. And I feel like he's just the exact same amount of speed, agility, all of that type of stuff, explosion. So it's just like you can't miss with him. Again, I'm not worried about the torn ACL. Maybe he's not able to participate in rookie mini camps and regular mini camps and mandatory stuff and training camp maybe even, but even if he's not, bro, you're getting a playmaker, arguably the most talented receiver in this draft class. I mean, as a Georgia Bulldogs fan, I can tell you how much fear Jameson Williams strikes in opposing DBs, man. As a Georgia fan, I can tell you. If you don't want to take it from anybody else, take it from me. Georgia had one of the best defenses in college football history this past season, and we couldn't do anything with Jameson Williams. There was no play call, there was no play design, there was no coverage scheme, nothing we could do with Jameson Williams. The only way Jameson Williams could be stopped was him getting hurt, and then that's what ended up happening, sadly. But man, I would love to take a Jameson Williams again, even if he's not 100% himself. And don't sleep on the fact that he's just a freak athlete and that's it. He's a great catcher. He's an aggressive catcher. He plucks the ball out of the air. He doesn't wait for the ball to come to him. He goes and gets it out the air. He's not a body catcher. He's a hands catcher. His route running is already really good, with areas of improvement that I could see him growing into to become an even more elite receiver. I mean, I definitely think he has top 10 receiver potential easily. And I can see him exploding onto the scene and being one of those top receivers immediately. Like how Jamar Chase just took over the league his rookie season, I can see Jameson Williams doing the same thing. And to have this guy opposite of Terry McLaurin, and then now we finally have a quarterback, even though I don't love the trade for Carson Wentz, we do have a quarterback with an arm that can finally hit guys deep down the field. So Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel if healthy, De'Ami Brown, and now Jameson Williams with a vertical attack with the arm of a Carson Wentz, that's crazy. How do you defend that? I'm not big on taking receiver 11th overall. That's why I'm willing to trade back, because if we're going to get receiver, I wouldn't want to get it with the 11th overall pick. I would love a playmaking receiver opposite of Terry McLaurin, and it sounds so exciting, but I don't think it's that much of an issue, because if Curtis Samuel comes back fully healthy, which I'm not depending on at all, do not base your draft decisions around Curtis Samuel coming back and being healthy and playing like his 2020 self. Do not do that. But if he does come back healthy, and if De'Ami Brown ends up being who we thought he could be, and if we finally have a quarterback in Carson Wentz, unlike all of the quarterbacks we've had for the past few years, that can actually take advantage of how athletic and explosive our receiving group can be, then it will look like we don't necessarily even need another playmaking receiver. But to add that to what we already have, man, hey, if we got to take a receiver at 11, it's got to be Jameson Williams, in my opinion. Moving on, you have Chad Muma from Wyoming, the linebacker. And to me, I mean, to get straight to it, I feel like he's basically just a slightly more athletic Blake Martinez. And if Chad Muma ends up being 2020 Blake Martinez, but a little bit more athletic, a little bit faster, more explosive, just an overall better athlete version of 2020 Blake Martinez, then I feel like that's a home run pick in the second round, honestly. To me, the reason I compare him to Blake Martinez is because he's kind of like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. But we have a huge hole at Mike linebacker as far as like a guy that can call plays, a guy that can get everybody aligned in the right places, a guy with instincts to sniff out run plays and to be there before the blocking is even able to set up, a guy that can make stops in the run game, that can deal with all of the traffic that's created with being around offensive linemen and defensive linemen, guards, centers, all of that type of stuff, being able to stack a block and shed it against offensive linemen, especially specifically interior offensive linemen, something that Jamin Davis wants no parts of and something that Cole Holcomb still isn't great at, but he's improved. Like, to get that plus a guy that also isn't a liability in coverage. He can actually cover fairly well. Again, not great at it, but good enough. I think that's literally what we need. To be able to plug in Chad Muma, again, just imagine 2020 Blake Martinez, but with a little bit more explosion and speed to this defense, and we virtually have no holes. I mean, again, like I've already talked about, free safety is a need because I would love to add a rangy, single high type of free safety. Even though Tyrann Mathieu isn't that type of guy necessarily, I feel like Daxton Hill could be, but Daxton Hill's going to be gone before our second round pick. That's another reason to trade back, because you could probably get Daxton Hill plus one of those Ohio State receivers that all of y'all love. I like them, but I don't love them as much as everybody else. But even then, we get a middle linebacker that can most importantly stop the run, because that's our biggest weakness right now in call plays and be instinctual. But also they can cover, so you don't need to take them off of the field on third downs and obvious passing down situations. That is a great pick for us right there. That's an A pick. Chad Muma in the second round is a great option. He scored way better athleticism wise than I even expected, just based on what I saw on tape. So he's an even better athlete than I thought. So there's some potential there. There's a ceiling there that right now he's kind of a jack of all trades, and I feel like my biggest worry with him is his fluidity and his agility, as you can even see by his RAS grade. But even if you look at his tape, his main problem is kind of change of direction. But he's really smart, he's instinctual, he's able to sniff out plays, he doesn't fall for misdirections and all of that. And then he has the explosion, as you can see by this RAS too. I love how accurate his RAS goes with his film, because a lot of things you see on film, his RAS went out there and proved it, even though he's tested better than I thought, even on top of that. But like, he's able to diagnose plays and explode onto it and make stops immediately. Cole Holcomb has gotten better at, instead of making run tackles 5 yards down the field, he's more so doing it around the line of scrimmage. Chad Muma's even better than that because he's more instinctual and he's a better tackler. He's not as fast as Cole Holcomb. He doesn't have as much sideline to sideline speed. You could definitely argue he may not be as agile, but literally everything that Cole Holcomb doesn't have, Chad Muma has. And I just feel like that could make a great linebacker group. I feel like Jamin Davis is going to end up moving to like a permanent will linebacker spot. Let him lose some weight. Go back to what he was in college, because he tried to gain some weight for that Mike linebacker role that he knew we were going to try to force him into. Didn't work out. I'm glad we tried it, but it didn't work out. So now moving back to will linebacker, let him lose some weight, gain some of that speed back, some of that explosion, some of that acceleration, some of that agility back that he had back in college that he lost at the NFL level again because he wanted to gain so much weight. And let him do what Landon Collins is doing. Put him in that Landon Collins role that we lost, with Landon Collins probably leaving us. We released him. He hasn't signed with another team. Who knows? Maybe we sign him back for way cheaper later in free agency, like sometime in June or July or something like that. Who knows? But as of right now, I like Jamin Davis to be projected into what Landon Collins was doing last year for us. I could definitely see him filling in that role very nicely if he's able to go back to his college weight and speed. And so that leaves open the Mike linebacker spot still, and Chad Muma would be perfect for that, in my opinion. I love Darian Bevers, but I think he's going to get drafted fairly high. Plus, I mean, we've shown that we love Chad Muma and Darian Bevers. Speaking of Darian Bevers, Ron Rivera has personally met and spoken to Chad Muma and Darian Bevers, so I'm expecting us to take one of them. And it shows that we really feel like we have a need at Mike linebacker. Now, somebody had a quote recently, it was either Martin Mayhew or Ron Rivera, that said that they feel like Cole Holcomb could potentially step into the Mike linebacker role, but the fact that Ron Rivera, who rarely goes to pro days and all of that type of stuff, has already met Chad Muma and Darian Bevers, it shows that we have a strong interest in linebacker. So I say all of that to say that I'm not necessarily doing the most realistic mock draft yet. That's right before the draft, like literally days before the draft. I'm gonna come out with my most realistic scenario based on who we've met, who we're interested in, and all of that type of stuff. But these mock drafts that I'm doing up until that point are who I want us to draft. And it just so happens that Chad Muma and Darian Bevers are not only guys that I really want to draft, because I feel like they fill a major hole that we have in Mike linebacker, linebacker on this defense and on this team in general, but also these are guys that we are strongly interested in. Again, Ron Rivera's already met with both of them, so definitely expect us to get at least one of those guys, unless somebody hates and drafts them way sooner than we would expect. Next up, you have tight end Jelani Woods in round 4 with our 113th, 11th overall pick from Virginia. And like I've already explained in other videos, the tight end position is actually a bigger need than a lot of people may think. Like, we kind of forget that like Logan Thomas was hurt recently and he may not even be ready by week 1 of the regular season. We lost Ricky Seals-Jones to, I believe, the Giants, and Samus Reyes is still very raw, and I wouldn't necessarily say he's unplayable right now, but it's not ideal. Like, you're not excited going into week 1 with Samus Reyes as your second tight end. Like, it's John Bates and Samus Reyes, and that's it. That's as far as guys is fully healthy. So I think tight end is a pretty big need, and to get an athletic freak with a really high ceiling, but you're gonna have to be creative. Scott Turner's gonna have to get really creative with how you use this guy. He's a deadly receiving threat in the middle of the field, can literally outrun DBs at times running down the field as a vertical threat. But then he's also a really good blocker. This is one of those guys that's just, you know, with the right coaching, let John Moscow get to him, teach him how to block better, like he already did with Logan Thomas, Pete Hainer, and John Moscow had Logan Thomas and John Bates blocking their tails off. And even Samus Reyes, still raw, but one thing he did have to him was pretty good blocking already. So I think we get our hands on Jelani Woods with how well we've been able to develop tight ends the past couple of years. I think we have a truly special product right here. I think he has a higher ceiling than both Logan Thomas and John Bates, but he also kind of comes with a lower floor. But at the same time, if you look at his tape right now, he's already a pretty good blocker. He's just this one of a kind. I mean, what, 6'6", almost 6'7", 260 pounds, running a 4.61. No wonder he scored a 9.97 RAS. Like, that's ridiculous. During his time in Virginia, he was 260, but according to the RAS, he lost a couple of pounds by the time the combine came around, so he's 253. But either way, 6'7", 253. He benched 24. He ran a 4.61. I wish he would have done agility things as well so I could know exactly how agile he is, but he looks agile on tape. I feel like the thing that you have to work with him the most is his route running. But again, he looks agile on tape, so I'm not necessarily worried about that. I think he can definitely become a guy that can separate on his own. And he has, honestly, top 5 tight end potential. But again, you're going to have to deal with some of the raw parts of his game right now. And you're going to have to get creative. And also, one of the things he's raw in is that he does have the occasional drop, but I think that can be worked on. Again, you can teach him to catch better. You can't teach somebody being 6'7", 253 running a 4.61 and looks agile on tape. Again, I wish he would have tested so we could have seen it for sure. And again, he already comes with pretty good blocking that can be improved on for him to become a dominant blocker. There's definitely potential for him to be a dominant blocker. Honestly, with the type of ceiling that he has, and he doesn't come with an extremely low floor. He's not Samus Reyes where he's almost unplayable. You can technically play Jelani Woods week 1. May not be ideal, but with that ceiling of his, I honestly don't think he makes it to the 4th round. But who knows, man? I really hope he does. According to the Draft Network, they see him ranked as their 124th prospect. Again, our 4th round pick is 113, so they feel like he technically could make it to our pick, but I don't know, man. There has to be at least one other NFL team that's as excited about Jelani Woods as I am, and I don't see him making it past the 3rd round, honestly, but who knows? Again, the Draft Network has him ranked as their 124th ranked player, and we have the 113th pick, so hopefully he's there, man. I would love to get him, bro. And I feel like, honestly, with the way we develop tight ends between, even though we lost Pete Hainer, we still have John Moscow, and we brought in a guy that's really experienced with developing tight ends as well. So I feel like we have a good enough track record to where I could see Jelani Woods coming in and he could be ready to start week 1. Him and John Bates as a tight end 1, tight end 2 could actually potentially be very deadly. Then next up, round 6, 189th overall, we have running back Zamir White from Georgia. And I don't necessarily feel like we really need a power running back, but the way the Washington Commanders have already discussed bringing in another running back through the draft and maybe even through free agency, and that was even with JD McKissick included in the plan. So it wasn't like they were targeting a 3rd round back this whole time. To me, it seems like they're targeting a power back that can go and get those 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts. And I personally feel like we can develop Antonio Gibson into becoming that guy. So I don't necessarily feel like this is a huge need, but based on what the Washington Commanders have been saying, and I mean, if you want to go ahead and solve that problem right now and you don't want to wait on an Antonio Gibson and you want to have a guy that doesn't fumble much, you have Zamir White from Georgia. I mean, the 1-2 punch with James Cook. I mean, granted, we started throwing Kenny McIntosh in there a lot, especially towards the end of the season. And Kendall Milton, before he got hurt, man, oh, I'm so excited about him. But Zamir White was our like go-to early down or 3rd and short, 4th and short goal line situations. He's gonna get you those yards you need. And I mean, I just feel like ultimately that's a great idea for us to go if we're gonna take a power running back some point in this draft, especially in the 6th round. Zamir White is your guy. I mean, just like Nick Chubb, Georgia running back, kept dealing with back-to-back, I believe it was like torn ACLs for him as well, just like Zamir White, and he's looking as good as ever. So again, torn ACLs aren't the end-all be-all anymore. Now granted, Nick Chubb, as unbelievable as it is not as explosive as he used to be during his days at Georgia before he tore those ACLs, but he's still a really good running back and really explosive, and I expect Zamir White to be the same thing. Now, Zamir White tested way better than I thought he would. I did not see him running a 4.47 40-yard dash at all. I don't even necessarily see that on tape, to be brutally honest. Even as a Georgia Bulldog fan, he doesn't look 4.47 fast, but the fact that he tested that well reassures this pick here. Definitely faster than I expected, especially with a guy at his weight, almost 220. I love Zamir White as a power running back option, early down option type of guy. I was thinking that maybe we would go and try to get like a Leonard Fournette for cheap, or Rashad Penny for cheap in free agency. Since we didn't get any of those types of guys in free agency, I could definitely see us going Zamir White late in the draft. His broad jump shows how explosive he is. His vertical, he didn't test well for that, but he's definitely explosive. Do not let that vertical fool you. Look at the broad jump, that's more accurate. He is a very explosive guy. He's going to run guys over. If you need that 1 yard, Zamir White is your guy. And again, I believe he only fumbled like 3 times the whole time he was at Georgia, so I'm not worried about his fumbling situation at all. Definitely more worried about Antonio Gibson still than I am Zamir White for sure as far as fumbles go. And he also comes with great vision. Like Zamir White's vision, remember when we first got Antonio Gibson, and even now, he's still working on his vision. But especially when we first brought in Antonio Gibson, remember he was more so transitioning from receiver to running back, and his vision was really raw. Zamir White comes with great vision off rip. Kind of like Jared Patterson, where Jared Patterson right now, he's our smoothest runner. You could argue he has the best vision between him and Antonio Gibson. Zamir White, if we draft him, has even better vision than Jared Patterson in my opinion, along with more athleticism. He's bigger, he's stronger, and you could argue even, I mean, with a 4.47, again, I don't necessarily see that on tape, but you could argue he's even faster than Jared Patterson. He's basically just Jared Patterson, but stronger, faster, and you could argue even has better vision in my opinion. And I don't know why he didn't do agility grades, because I feel like Zamir White has underrated agility when you look at the tape. And so I think this is a home run hit. If you really feel like we need a power running back, even though I don't necessarily feel like we really need one, I'm still willing to give Antonio Gibson another year to work on that and be our short down situation type of guy, to be our do-it-all. I mean, catch a screen, take it to the house for 80 yards for a touchdown, and to be the guy on goal line, 4th and 1, to get that 1 yard we need. I feel like he can do both. But if you don't want to wait on him to develop into that guy as well, Zamir White is your answer. And again, I'm not worried about his ball security. You're gonna have to work with his pass blocking, but that's what JD McKissick is here for, because Antonio Gibson isn't good at that as well. He's also pretty one-dimensional. He only had 15 receptions in his 3 years with Georgia. So when you bring him into the game, he's not necessarily a receiving threat, so teams are probably gonna stack the box against us. But I mean, he's so strong and his vision is so good, his contact balance is so crazy, that even with teams stacking the box to stop him, he can still get you that yard. So I'm not too worried about that, but he's also not a very versatile guy. So even with all of the traits I've given you, with the great vision, the explosiveness, faster than I thought he even was, and relatively good ball security, the reason he's making it to the 6th round is because with the way that the NFL is going right now, you need to be able to catch, you need to be able to be a receiving threat, and he doesn't offer much of that. Next up, you have Cade Mays, guard, another Georgia product, but he transferred to Tennessee, so you know he's kind of a traitor, but it's cool. I already took him in a previous mock draft just because I feel like this is perfect. And now it makes even more sense now that we lost Eric Flowers. We brought in Andrew Norwell, but that doesn't net positive for losing Brandon Sheriff and Eric Flowers. I love Wes Schweitzer, and I'm okay with them starting at right guard, but he's so great and so versatile. I mean, he could play left guard, center, right guard if there's an injury. And if you have him starting at right guard, if there's an injury to left guard or center, who's going to fill in? I guess Sadiq Charles or Tyler Larson at center, but I prefer Wes Schweitzer as our backup swing interior offensive lineman, just like I prefer Cornelius Lucas to be our backup swing tackle, because they're both really solid at either of those positions, and I prefer to have them as a backup than a starter. So if you can bring in Cade Mays potentially to be a starter, but he's kind of like a jack of all trades as well. I mean, with Georgia and Tennessee, he's played left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, and right tackle. If there were an injury, Cade Mays filled in for us. I know for a fact for Georgia, no matter where the injury was, Cade Mays could move it, could switch his position to make up for that. If we had an injury, say at right guard, and we didn't have any really good backup right guards, but we had good backup left tackles or left guards, Cade Mays would go from his position of playing left tackle or left guard to move to right guard, because we don't have any really good backups there, and then we would move our backup left tackle into start, or left guard into starting where Cade Mays was. I mean, he's just that type of versatile piece to where no matter where you have an injury, you can come in to plug and play right there. And he's basically just a high floor, relatively low ceiling guy. He doesn't have a lot of athleticism. So basically, he's the only guy out of this entire mock draft that he comes with a high floor and a low ceiling. Everybody else is high ceiling, relatively low floor, or even a high floor. He's the only guy out of this entire mock draft that doesn't have a really high ceiling. Pretty much what you get day one is what you're gonna get. Granted, there's things he can still improve on, like not leaning forward too much, but overall, this is just a good, solid depth piece pickup to where, again, if you have an injury anywhere, you can depend on Cade Mays to come in and step up and start at any of those positions. Remember, he's a former 5-star. He's not a slouch. He's limited athleticism wise, but it's not like he's just a super stiff, not strong, not fast, not explosive guy. He's kind of the antithesis of Samuel Cosme coming out of Texas, but again, it's not like he's just this super unathletic guy. He's still relatively athletic, but he's not a super high ceiling guy as well. And again, he's a jack of all trades. For me, I feel like he projects best at right guard at the NFL level. That's where he played his best football in college. So if we can get him to be a starting level right guard and have Wes Schweitzer as our backup interior offensive lineman, that's perfect. But when in doubt, Wes Schweitzer can be a starting right guard and Cade Mays can fill in at any position where we have an injury, especially inside. And I wish we had an RAS for him to look at how he tested, but I mean, I don't need to see his test to know that he's a fairly limited athlete. But again, that jack of all trades thing, excellent pick in the 7th round to get a guy that can fill in at any offensive lineman position if there's an injury. And then lastly, with our last pick of the draft, round 7, 240, first overall, I was taking free safety Isaiah Pola-Mao from USC. And all I really gotta say is 6'4" and ran a 4.54. Really long, developmental free safety that has the potential to be that crazy, rangy guy that can just be your center fielder, the guy that I would love to get in Daxton Hill, but a more developmental but longer version of that. And of course, not as fast. Daxton Hill is a 4.3 guy. Isaiah is more like a lower 4.5 guy. Again, he ran a 4.54 at some point during his time in USC. But I mean, this is just one of those guys that just has all of the tools, just needs to put it together, man. Again, we like to run, like I've already talked about in videos, Jack Del Rio likes to deploy like Cameron Curl, Bobby McCain, and even may run Jeremy Reeves out there at the same time. So it's not a lot of times that we run just a single high safety formation, but I would love if we drafted Isaiah to start doing it, man. Again, I would love to get Daxton Hill. That's why I wanted Marcus Williams. I feel like Daxton Hill is basically a faster Marcus Williams. We don't have that true rangy free safety. I hope Bobby McCain will become that, and he started to get better in the second half of the season, but I still feel like we don't have one. And again, granted, even though we do run a lot of cover 2, cover 3, you get a guy like Isaiah and develop him, you can finally start to run more of that cover 1, and you can be able to defend underneath better because you can have more defensive resources to cover in those underneath routes, where if you just trust Isaiah to hold down the back end by himself, completely solo dolo, he has the potential to do that. Now granted, he's fairly raw, but you can't teach 6'4" with a 4.54 40 time, and with how long his arms are. I mean, look at him, he can basically tie his shoes standing up. You can't teach that. And I know we've tried that experiment before with guys, but I feel like this guy could just basically be a faster Benjamin St. Juste, but more of a free safety than a corner. And I mean, we saw how Benjamin St-Juste already off the rip was a pretty solid corner. I don't know what's going on with this injury situation, concussion situation, but corner, like I've already said, I'll keep saying it, is arguably the hardest position as far as making the transition from college to the NFL. Like, it's one of the hardest. It's quarterback and cornerback easily as the top two. And so to see Benjamin St-Juste come out the gate right off the bat already producing, I have faith that our coaching staff can bring that out of Isaiah as well. This is a different coaching staff than back in the day when we were taking 6'3" guys and tried them at free safety and corner. I forgot the guy's name. We got him in the supplemental draft, but that didn't work out at all. I feel like this coaching staff can do that with Isaiah though. Again, just based off of what they did with Benjamin St-Juste, they do that with Isaiah, and we can finally have that true rangy free safety that I've been trying to mock to us for the past few years now. Again, Daxton Hill is your more certified, way higher floor, and probably an equally high ceiling. Smaller, but faster. So that's my ideal pick. But if you don't get a Daxton Hill, if you don't get like a Kyle Hamilton, even though I feel like he's going to play more versatile, he's not just going to be a true rangy free safety. He has that in him, but I don't think NFL teams are going to use him as a pure rangy free safety center fielder type of guy that I really would love to add to this team. Again, I mean, Kyle Hamilton falls to us at 11. You take him without a doubt, but he doesn't bring that center fielder that I want to add to this team to give our defense another element. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu doesn't bring that either, but that doesn't stop me from wanting Tyrann Mathieu on this team in free agency, because that'll just give us more versatility. Same thing with Kyle Hamilton, but instead, you have Daxton Hill, or can't get Daxton Hill again, Isaiah, as your option to bring that single high element to your defense. And I feel like Jack Del Rio would do a good job of implementing that and having fun with it, because again, you can have a guy that can just be your center fielder and hold down the whole deep part of the field by himself. That's 10 guys you can have cover everything underneath, between your defensive line, your linebackers, your corners, your other safety like Cameron Curl. Just, I mean, where do you throw the ball? So I definitely take a risk on this guy. I take a flyer on this guy late in the draft for sure with our final pick. Now, granted, through this mock draft, I didn't get us any defensive tackle depth. I didn't get us a future franchise quarterback, but I feel like we hit every other need fairly well. We got a playmaking receiver. We have a future star at tight end potentially. We have a developmental free safety. We have a really good middle linebacker. I don't even want to really call him a jack of all trades, because I feel like with his athleticism, he has the ceiling to become even better at everything, and he's already very instinctual. He already has a really high IQ in Chad Muma. So, I mean, honestly, he may become like a, you could argue, queen of all trades. I don't want to say king, because I don't necessarily think he'll ever be like a Bobby Wagner, but I think he has Pro Bowl potential to him at Mike linebacker for sure. So that fills that need. You have guard depth for sure. You bring in a power running back. I feel like the only need, again, that I didn't address in this mock draft is future franchise quarterback, but who knows? Maybe Carson Wentz ends up going out there being the best case scenario and is our franchise quarterback. In defensive tackle depth, I mean, granted, we have guys on roster, and you can also bring in guys through free agency. Star Lou Talele still available, and you can bring in some undrafted free agents. And I'll start addressing undrafted free agents in my later mock drafts, especially my most realistic scenario, because it's going to be based off of guys that we're already interested in, off of reports who we met with, all of that type of stuff, off of combine meetings. So that final mock draft right before the real draft will include undrafted free agents, so stay tuned for that. But hey man, that's this mock draft. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything I discussed in this video. How do you feel about my picks? Who do you want us to take in all of these rounds? You can include your own mock draft in the comment section. I'll definitely be reading them. I'll try to reply to as many as possible, but definitely grade my mock draft and let me know how you feel about all of the players I selected and whether or not you like these guys. Do you like Jameson Williams in the first round? Do you like Chad Muma in the second? Do you feel like Jelani Woods is still in the third? So on and so forth. And as always, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, man. I really appreciate y'all. Again, all of my sponsors, y'all are gonna keep getting those exclusive, raw, unedited film sessions, so stay tuned. And anybody that's not a sponsor, go become a sponsor so you can get access to that content, because I'm coming out with film sessions often. And as we get closer to the draft, like once we get into the month of April, especially like a week from the draft, I may do a daily film session, may even do more than one in a day. Of course, I want to work on some edited film sessions that I get out there to everybody, even if you're not a channel member. But the ones where it's unedited and raw, and I mean, all I'm doing is recording it and uploading it, I'm not taking 5 hours to edit it. Oh yeah, those are going to come out often, because that's way less difficult to do, way less time consuming. consuming. So go become a channel member so you can get access to that as well. And I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.